Hello there. In this video, we're going to talk about imaginary numbers. So we look at our first example here, and it says simplify radical negative 147. And if you try this on your calculator, you get an error. So you've probably been told in math that you cannot square root a negative. And think about it. Square rooting means I need two numbers that are the same that multiply to make negative 147. Now, that's not possible, right? Because if this is a negative outcome and square rooting involves making two numbers that are exactly the same, if these are both positive, that'll make a positive. If these are both negative, that'll make a positive. So this is impossible. You can't do that. So math people decided, well, what if we want to do this question anyway? And they came up with the concept of imaginary numbers. Basically, they came up with this idea. If we ever want to square root a number, we can, and we just call it I. We just name it with the letter I. So whenever you see an I in math, that means a negative has been square rooted. And we're going to use this fact for today. The square root of negative 1 is I. Now notice I put my I's as like a cursive I because I don't want them to look like ones. I'm trying to be fancy. So square root of negative 1 is I. So question 1 here wants us to simplify this. And remember, to simplify radicals, we're going to pick two numbers that multiply to make 147, and one of them is a perfect square. Now, 147 doesn't have too many numbers that go into it, but I see that 49 goes into it. So I'm going to pick negative 49 and 3. Those two numbers multiply to negative 147. And then I'm going to answer this using this fact. If radical negative 1 is I, then radical negative 49 is 7I. All right, and then radical 3 cannot be simplified anymore. So this is the answer to this question. That's as far as we can simplify that. Okay, 7I radical 3 is your answer to question number 1. Now let's take a look at question number 2. Same thing, simplify radical negative 245. So I need to come up with two numbers that multiply to 245, and one of which is a perfect square. Now, some of you have used your calculator to hit y equals and go to, type in 245 divided by x, and then go to your table and scroll through and find, is there a number that goes into 245 that's a perfect square? Remember, we want to pick the biggest number that goes into it. Not just any number. It has to be the biggest perfect square that goes into it. I found it. It's negative 49 again. And how many times does it go in? It goes in 5 times. All right, and then we're going to answer this. This is 7I. Square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of negative 1 is I. And then the radical 5 can't be simplified, so that just comes on down. All right, let's take a look at example 3 here. It says simplify to a plus bi form. So when you do square roots, a plus bi form is when you write your answer with numbers that are normal numbers plus numbers that have i's attached. We're going to put the plain numbers first, and then we're going to put the numbers with the I attached, and we're going to do those second. We're going to attach those to the end. So let's simplify this to the best of our ability. The square root of 144, that's positive. We can just answer that. That's 12. The square root of 25 is just 5. And I'm going to bring down that minus there. Now these two need to be simplified using that last process here. Again, we have a question where it's negative 49 and a radical 2. 49 times 2 is 98. And we're going to make that one negative, so we can answer it to be 7I radical 2. And that minus is just going to get brought down here. That minus 5 is going to be brought down here. And then 32. The only number I know that goes into it that's a perfect square is negative 16 and 2. So that means the radical 32 with a negative simplifies to be the square root of 16 is 4, so that'll be 4i. Radical 2 just kind of gets tacked along there, and that plus sign gets tagged along as well. So now this is just combining like terms. And when we combine like terms, it says put the I terms at the end and put the numbers without the I terms first. So we have 12, and we have negative 5. Those combine to be 7. And then we have negative 7i radical 2 plus 4i radical 2. That'll work out to be minus 3i radical 2. This radical 2 works just like a variable or a label. We just bring it along and add and subtract the numbers out front. So negative 7i plus 4i is negative 3i. The radical 2 doesn't change. That just stays attached at the end. So that's our answer for this question. All right, we have one more example to do. That's number 4. It says simplify to a plus bi form. So to simplify this, I see a minus in front of parentheses, so I'm going to distribute that minus, and then we'll start combining like terms. So we have negative 3 minus 9i. When I distribute this minus minus, it's going to be plus 12, and this minus minus is going to be plus 3i. And then our last part is to simplify it using combining like terms. So this negative 3 and this positive 12 is going to be 9. And this negative 9i and this plus 3i is going to simplify to be negative 6i. And remember, it says a plus bi form, so that means put the I term at the end and the number without the I term first. So that is adding and subtracting imaginary numbers. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.